Okay, good. It's working. And in the end, he's just kind of deciding whether or not to franchise the company, and kind of he's trying to decide what pace they should be growing at. Let's see. Okay, so what in the case, what do you think was so they kind of created or were kind of tapping into that fast casual market. What do you think the challenge was that they had within that segment, that market segment? What was one of their challenges as trying to build up their company in that market? Okay, now it's too warm.
It talked about having starting to get a lack of real estate, a lack of places to build, a lack of energized people to come and work for them. A lack of, obviously there's a competition for customers in there. I think those were the three that it listed.
Yeah, I thought that the big one, so they said in here that they were talking about that there was an 8.3% per year annual sales with projected growth of 15 to 20%. So it was really saturated, and there was just a ton of people in that market. I hate these questions. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, I am like totally not prepared and forgot to read it over. So one of the big things, I don't know, one of the big things that I focused on was their company culture, and how they really had to kind of build that up because they kind of started off really rocky. Do you think that they can maintain that culture that they have with the kind of growth that they want to see with the company?
I think that's one of the hardest things to do, and when you do grow a company is losing your identity. Trying to figure out their target market, and as they get bigger, wondering, who that market is. At the same time, trying to figure out what they want to do internally as a company is very difficult to do. As long as they're not letting the stakeholders, or over-promising to the stakeholders, they can do that. But as soon as the stakeholders get in, come into play, then that could cause a problem. So I think it's possible, but they just have to kind of, gauge it, and they got to keep the screws, tight, and not allow themselves to get too big too fast.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Something that they talked about was the owner, Aaron. He was starting to really be disconnected from the customers, and he didn't feel like the vision or the standards or the values were being extended to all of the employees. And so that's why he's talking about hiring different people, and then he would spend his time going around training on that, right? Or am I on my way?
No, you're right.
Yeah. Bob, do you have anything?
I kind of, one of the things that stood out to me, Jeff already kind of mentioned it, and that was just the growing too fast. They, he even though they kind of started off on a shoestring, they never really had an issue getting the money that they needed. They never really even had to go to a bank or anything like that. Just by word of mouth with associates, people they knew, people they'd worked with before and stuff. Obviously, those people felt like the idea that they were presenting was a pretty good idea. And so they almost kind of fell into the money. Every time they needed more, they were able to get it. And even right up to the point that they started selling stock. I mean, their first shares of stock they sold for $0.25. And by the time they turned around, well, just a few years later, with I think less than 30 stores, they were selling it for $31 a share. So I mean, it was bouncing right on up for them, and that can get out of control real quick. because it is that culture that they were trying to maintain and whatnot doesn't ever respond very well to growing pains. You can lose it very quickly, and so I just kind of agree with Jeff that it was going pretty fast, anyways, and that would make it hard to maintain.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me that they were getting all that money, and I think that was kind of going in their head because I didn't think it was very smart of them to like keep opening up all these shops when the first ones that they had were doing so poorly. I mean, obviously it eventually works out for them, but I just felt like it was not like that's why they were doing so poorly. Like they didn't have customers, like they didn't have a store that they were like proud of and that other people liked. And I think that was because they were just kind of getting ahead of themselves, like, oh, we have all this money, people are interested in it, but they didn't have the process down. Let's see. So
at the same time, though, you've got to keep, because of how easy the money was coming in, those people obviously believed this was a viable concept.
Mm-hmm.
So to not continue to open up new locations, that money would dry up very quickly. The only reason that money was coming in was because they were able to keep opening new shops. Anyhow, so I agree with you. They didn't have everything in place. There was a lot of stuff that they weren't sure how they were doing this. Even their menus and stuff like that, or not necessarily their menus, their recipes weren't the same in every location and whatnot. And they hadn't gone and done research really. I mean, he'd eaten at one noodle shop and got this idea. And so it wasn't until things started to fall down a little bit that he grabs his buddies and they go drive around and hit other noodle shops and get some other ideas. I think you're right. I also think, though, that if they hadn't kept opening new spots, the money would have dried up fast.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I wasn't really thinking about that at all. So what is their, I mean, so they are focusing on the growth strategy. What's their plan for expansion? I didn't really catch that in the case, so I'm not quite sure.
They want a franchise.
Was that the only option that they were thinking of?
Well, no. I think wasn't it between franchising and financing? I think they'd finally gotten to the point to where they had to finance, or they were thinking that they would have to go. Where is it? Anyways, that they were going to have to either go borrow some money, and that would be huge amounts of money, or then start the franchising thing, like Blake said.
Okay, I only caught the franchising because I was kind of not motivated with this one, but yeah, the franchising was the big one. So which option do you guys think is the best? Or do you guys have any other ideas for different options?
Wasn't it franchise, or they were going to sell it off? Wasn't there something in there about that, about selling it?
I don't think I saw that.
Maybe not. Seems like there was something.
I'm trying to find it. I thought it was. Personally, I think the best option for them is to franchise. One of the things about it, my dad started working for Cellular One, and some of you may not even know what Cellular One is. So Cellular One is what before AT&T Wireless, and it was started by a man named Craig McCaw. And Craig McCaw did everything with other people's money, and so he had investors and whatnot, and was able to turn it into a huge operation to the point that AT&T wanted it, and that's where AT&T Wireless came from. After he got his billions from selling Cellular One to AT&T Wireless, he went and bought Nextel, and then I think he met a young lady in his office he liked better, and so now Mrs. McCaw owns Nextel. The ex-Mrs. McCaw owns Nextel. But anyways, or used to. I think she sold it. I think Sprint has it now. But the point is that he made this massive fortune with other people's money. And that's kind of what franchising allows you to do is you do the R&D when you're somebody like this guy. And so you've set up this business, you set up your culture and kind of how you want things to go. And then other people come in and pay you to use your business model. And so
it's on their capital.
Yeah, basically. Now they can, crash and burn. I noticed that some of the prices that they mentioned from comparable stores were pretty cheap. I mean, they were talking $35,000. I'm not sure what the amount of money is now, but at one point, just to open, back when I was a teenager, to open a McDonald's, you had to have $250,000 in liquid capital. And since then, I'm sure it's a lot more now. So the investment was much more substantial. But anyways, for me, that's the best deal. Yeah, you do it with other people's money.
Jeff, do you have anything? Any ideas on what they should be doing?
I think, as far as your liability, anytime that you have your own money invested and you're not a corporation, though when you are running with your own money, you have a lot more control. You're not as protected. If you're in it solely, if you create a corporation, then you're kind of protecting yourself from like lawsuits, because it's lawsuits against a company versus, kind of keeping it, just local, or, without going and getting a bunch of franchises. But I think the best way is probably just to franchise it, get it out there. Let the liability fall not all on, you or, a few select people in the company. I think it's just a safer way. As soon as you go like LLC, or you go, to a private company, then you limit your liability.
And I don't really know how this works. I feel like they keep choosing cases, and I'm like, I have no idea how things work in these like corporations. Yeah, it's interesting. Blake, do you have anything?
No, I was just reading through their options here.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody? It just seems like the reason why they have to keep growing is because they keep acquiring all this debt. He started out in debt. He maxed out his credit card, second mortgage on his house, $200,000 donation, $250,000 donation, $1 million loan from the bank. And now he's saying they have to earn $80 million in order to open their 32 units to stay ahead of the game. But it's like, are they just having to do that because they're so far in debt?
You can't, essentially, a corporation like this, you start a small business. Let's say Sydney gets her advertising thing going and she gets out there into the world and everybody sees that. What people look for is growth. That's what they want to see. And it bumps you into that adapt or die scenario really quick. You have to grow or you shrivel up. It's staying small successfully. That may work for architectural firms, law firms, things like that, professional groups. But when you are out there in the world where you're doing retail or something of this nature, you have to keep growing. You can't ever really get to a point to where you just quit. You may have a little restaurant that you like to go to that maybe is in one or two locations, but they're a little family run thing, and so they can do just fine. It's word of mouth. The people that come there are friends, that kind of thing. When you're something like this, once you get started, you really can't stop.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
So one of the problems that I don't know, because I've been to a Noodles and Company before, and they're franchised now, aren't they?
Yes.
They are. Okay, because I went to a couple in California, and they were super good, and they have one here in Idaho Falls, and it just is horrible. And so that's why I didn't go with franchising, just because for me, it's just, that experience was like the difference. Like I wouldn't really want to go back again just because it wasn't great, you know? And so what are some of the other issues that you see? Like, I know that it makes sense financially, but are there other issues that you guys see with franchising that would kind of make them maybe like go backwards a little bit or anything?
Yeah. So I was thinking about that too. It doesn't matter where I go. If I go into a Subway, it's like the exact same sandwich, no matter what, every single time. And so with you having problems, and a lot of franchises have problems like that, I don't feel like they've streamlined their processes and their procedures and their values enough to be able to grow. I mean, it's obvious. If the one in Idaho Falls stinks, but you can go to another one down the street and it's awesome, what's the difference there? They haven't done enough to streamline what they're trying to accomplish. And so that was my hesitation with franchising as well. I don't feel like Noodles and Company has gotten to that point yet, based on what we read in the case study. They're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying.
Because I feel like they have this idea, you know, they were talking about like how the employees have incentives and things, and they're trying to get employees that really that are, you know, portray their values, which every company does. But I think that when they're growing at such a large scale, it's hard to be able to instill those values in everyone when you're just focusing on like, okay, we want to get bigger and better, you know?
Yeah.
So I do see that. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? The problems that could happen with franchising?
It's just negative. You know, it could affect the brand negatively. You know, with what you guys are talking about. You know, that's a huge, you know, downside to franchising. You don't have the proper standard operating procedures. As you guys mentioned, your brand can tank really quick just because one person has a bad experience. You know, at one place, but not necessarily at another. So, brand and image is definitely something that you could lose.
I think you lose it one person at a time. You know, it just depends. You can have a bad experience at lots of places. I'm originally from California. That's where In-N-Out is from. And I talk to people out here, and they just love In-N-Out Burger. They think it's wonderful. I wouldn't go there if you paid me. That is the slowest place to get In-N-Out. Has got nothing to do with. They're the worst. And so I just don't have that kind of time. Not for a hamburger. And so that's my bad experience. But you know, you walk into any In-N-Out, and there's 30 people in there having a great time.
I love In-N-Out Burger.
I know. That's like my meal. That's my dream meal. Fries, a burger, and a nice milkshake.
Oh, it's so good and cheap.
When my wife was pregnant with our second child, she wanted a chocolate shake one night. And so I drove down to In-N-Out, and it was late. And there was me and one other person in line at the drive-thru, nobody inside, and 12 kids in there running around screwing off. I sat in that drive-thru for 20 minutes waiting for a chocolate shake. I'm done. And so, but what I'm saying is that that's just my experience. So while you may have had a bad experience, or the one in Idaho Falls sucks, there are a lot of people that just think it's the bomb. And they like being able to get in there. They like that casual. You can actually sit down and order something that you're not worried about spilling down the front of you like you would with a wad of ketchup or mustard. So it's got its pluses. We can all look at the negative experiences that we've had, and then look at everybody else who's sitting around you going, yeah, I saved room for dessert. What do you got? And so it's a lot of those personal experiences don't necessarily add up to a big negative. It's certainly a negative for you. It's one for me, but shoot, these places are popping up everywhere. I drove past one in what town it was in Oklahoma. Anyways, it was the last place I would have expected to see something like Noodles and Company, but there it was, sitting in the middle of a strip mall and cars all around it. So you never really know.
Yeah, that's true. So I kind of want to talk about what are your guys' thoughts on their culture? Like their organizational culture, and how does that, I guess the question on here just asks about how does that make or break a strategy in a company? I don't really know what that means, so I have to get your thoughts. All this corporate stuff that's just over my head.
It's only of any value if you can stick to it.
Anyone else?
I'm trying to find the question.
Oh, on the sheet.
Yeah.
It's just under application.
Oh,
Sorry if
how
I'm
can,
like not following it like a ton.
no, it's okay.
No,
How
it's
can
just fine.
organizational culture make or break a strategy?
So when I look at culture and when I think of culture, and depending on what kind of culture you have, if you have a sorry, and I'm kind of tired, so if my voice kind of cracks, I apologize. Um, if you have a culture that is set up around people wanting to give good ideas, um, and each person has a say within that company as far as the culture. A lot of times you're going to carry that culture and get a lot of good brainstorming and ideas, um, which focus, I think, more on quality. When you have everybody kind of pitching in and putting their best effort forward, versus I think that they were trying to grow it, but I think they were thinking more quantity versus quality. And I think when you lose the quality piece and you start thinking quantity, how fast do we want to grow this, then you lose a little bit of your culture. And I think the quality that you get from people talking to each other, um, and having that those core values in your culture will make you a lot stronger. At least starting out. If you franchise, then you kind of lose a little bit anyway because you kind of let go. But I think just thinking of this question like as far as quality versus quantity, I always tend to go with the quality and getting quality people and making sure that you have everybody express their concerns, and you can do that a bunch of different ways. Whether they're with surveys or they're meetings, or they were trying to be the first in market, on a lot of stuff, and I don't think it's necessarily um, being the first in market is the best thing, but being the best in the market, I think, would be better. So I think that comes with the culture, quality over quantity.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you. Bob, you have anything else for us on that one?
Oh, I was trying to read through the franchising stuff. That's another thing with the franchising, is once you do that, there's really no way to guarantee, you can present these people with your business plan, how you would like the culture to run and stuff like that, but you can't really tell somebody how to run their store. And so I wonder if that's part of what makes it hard to maintain.
I mean, you can't tell someone that like owns a franchise how to run it.
Right. I mean, you can make suggestions to them, but you don't really, if it's someplace, they're setting up in kind of little metropolitan areas, these kind of higher or middle end areas where they can get a certain caliber of employee. You may not be able to get that type of employee everywhere. And you may not be able to even get that kind of management people everywhere. And so I think it can make it hard to maintain the quality. And so then, you know, and not everybody has that same vision. They haven't been through the same experience that you've been through. You know, they're looking here at having 50% franchise, 50% company owned stores. So you're going to have 50 of them that are run right on that market, 50%. You're going to have half of your stores are going to be run right on that model. They're going to have that good quality. And then you've got the risk of the other 50% not so much.
Yeah, that's true. So how can teaming influence any corporate strategy? Because Noodleton Company didn't really include that. At least I feel like they didn't really include that in their, they kind of like focused on the individual and like meeting individual goals. But how do you think that how does it influence corporate strategy? I don't even know what corporate strategy is. Can anyone answer that?
What was the first thing that you said?
How can teaming influence any corporate strategy? I'm assuming teaming just means like team atmosphere.
So I think one of the things that we kind of touched this on another case study, when you have a good team, you know, having a good team is only as good as, I think, the manager over the team, and it's up to the manager to have good idea of what the strengths of each person are on the team. So once you assign, you know, a particular job to somebody, a lot of times that goes a long way to have them take pride in the job that they're doing. A lot of times if you don't have teams, everybody's just kind of looking at each other going, are you doing that or are you doing that? But if you have a true team leader and somebody that says, hey, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, and you're doing this, you get a lot more done because each person has an assignment within the team, versus if you don't have a team and everybody's just kind of falling over each other going, I don't know what to do. And then you don't get as much traction and the wheels turning as much.
And I feel like they tried to implement that a little bit with that whole idea of like people getting bonus, like the individual stores getting, I think it was bonuses or something if they meet a certain level. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I
There
feel
were
like
performance bonuses based on like the secret shopper reviews and things like that.
See, I saw that, but that was kind of like the only, like, I didn't feel like they ever talked about like management or anything like that, like kind of like the team leader kind of a thing. So I wasn't quite sure that they really had a team atmosphere, you know?
There was a part where it outlined the position. So like a general manager and two assistant managers, and then like shift leads, and then people, peasants.
People below.
No, entry-level employees, the ones that are still not worth minimum wage, but getting paid that much. No, and it goes back to what Jeff said. You know, he talked about that it's only as strong as the manager. And when you look at this, the managers were being offered some profit sharing and things like that, some incentive to keep them working with their team and to keep the team's performance up on a higher level. And then they also talked about like there's one part in here where it's, you know, every kid running the cash register or dishwasher or line cook knows what their store's sales records are, and they know when they surpass them. So they were all working together. They knew what the goal was, and they were working to bring that up. And so, or at least they all had something to work towards.
So was everyone offered a bonus if they?
Yeah, the whole store would get a bonus if they succeeded in certain areas. But I'm sure the managers got more.
Yeah.
Well, the managers got the profit sharing and everything like that from the get-go. That was just part of coming on board. And I think part of that was because they were new enterprise. You know, you ask somebody to come into a new shop, they're, you know, you want to know, hey, what's up here? And I think Blake mentioned it back in the very beginning. capable of managing one of these can manage another food place as well. And when you're competing for people are a scarce resource just as much as anything else. So when you're trying to compete for the good people, you got to give them a reason to stay.
Yeah, I did like the incentive program. I thought that was kind of cool just because they are like, who works at fast food restaurants? A bunch of high school kids work there, and I guess college kids. I've never worked at a fast food place before, but I'm sure that they do. Okay, well, kind of one of the last things that they want to touch on is how, like, do you have any gospel principles that apply to this case study? Kind of a stretch.
Don't go into debt was a gospel principle, and he broke it.
That's a good idea, actually.
Ah,
That's a good one.
it is. I just thought it was kind of funny. It's
I think for me is staying humble, because being a big business isn't always the best. Bigger doesn't always be better.
Never running faster than you're able, huh?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I suck at these. Like, I was trying to think about one. I was like, I have no idea.
And I think
wasn't this the guy that was sipping whiskey in front of the stake president last week?
Nice.
Trying to get released, but they just don't have it.
I think of Aaron, he's already, I think that was his name, Aaron. He's already doing fine with the company, and a lot of times, he could see this, as a profit and get out, and be done with it. Either way, he's successful, and he doesn't need to put too much pressure on himself at this point. So,
ooh, the word profit.
well, profit, PRO.
Yeah. That's awesome.
My favorite part of the night is the red high heels above Bob's head. That's my favorite.
There you go.
Oh, those are pink. Anything. Those are pink.
Those, I'm sure, look so good on you. Are you in a closet?
No, actually, I'm adding on to my house, and so that piece of OSB right there behind me, that's actually the future bathroom door.
Oh.
And anyways, and then the future closet door behind that, and so I kind of got my stuff on a rack right now.
All your stuff.
Oh, so they are your shoes.
Yeah, see all this rock over here? That's my fireplace inside. This used to be outside my house. And so anyways, it's going pretty cool. It's turning out kind of nice. Got a skylight over my bed. Yeah.
And you're doing it all yourself?
Yeah.
It's a big project.
Good work, Bob.
I love all that stuff.
I don't know about that. It's taken a while. And then I decided to go back to school, so it's kicking it in the butt.
Wait, how long do you have left?
I'm somewhere in my junior year.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That's like, that's like getting on a scale when you're trying to lose weight. You don't do that for the first couple months.
I get it. Okay, well, I think that's kind of the end. Like, I just, these past couple of cases, I have just been, like, struggling to get through, and I just don't really see a lot of, like, point to them. Has anyone done the readings? Do they have any, like, connections you can make between the readings this week? Because I have not done the reading this week yet.
I'm actually going to pick my book up at Barnes & Noble on Saturday. I don't even have it yet. So
I don't have mine yet either, so that makes me feel better. I've been, like, trying to find excerpts online.
Noble, and they told me, they said, we have a whole bunch of those on order. So apparently I'm not the only one.
Remind me which books we're reading for this class. I'm getting them mixed up.
Oh, this next book is Great Work.
Oh.
How to Make a Difference People Love.
By that stake president.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, the professor knows this guy. He's a stake president in Utah and wrote a book. And then, so he changed the required reading to this book. after I already had the original required reading and I already read it. I bought it on audiobook and I had a 9-hour drive, so I listened to it the whole way and I was like, I'm on top of it. And then he changed the book. So he's letting me just stick with that other one. So I have no idea what book this is.
Okay, well.
You mean after you already listened to it? After you already read it? That's fun. I like that.
And I had to do it for another class, so I knocked out 2 birds.
Oh my gosh. I wish that would happen to me.
Multitasking on your drive.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously, we know that Noodles and Company did well, and they chose to franchise, and they've been expanding. I don't know how many places that they have, but I mean, I just feel like they've been popping. They popped up in Idaho Falls. Who wants to start a business in Idaho Falls? Sucks there. Anyways, apparently they're doing really well, and they're willing to take chances and do it in different places. So, anyways, thanks for coming tonight, and I like to keep it nice and short, so we were about 40 minutes. So, woohoo!
Good job.
So next Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah. Can we do it Wednesday or Tuesday? Oh wait, no, Tuesday is when it's due.
Oh, do we still have to do one? Is it not?
We have to meet
because it's a holiday?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm getting them all confused.
If we do,
One
I think we
class-
should do it on Thursday. If we do
Thursday?
meet, I think we should do it on Thursday, and we can all compare who's having the best dinner.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to Noodles and Company, and I'm just getting some bowls of stuff.
I'm going to In-N-Out Burger.
Hey, if you've got that kind of time, buddy, you go for it.
We're getting barbecue turkey made.
Oh, that sounds so yummy.
Oh,
A
awesome.
place called Hard Eight
One
Barbecue.
thing. I did like one thing in this lesson. Did you notice all the different things that you think of as higher end franchises that are owned by McDonald's and stuff?
Yeah. Boston Market's owned by McDonald's? I had no idea.
Wait, what? How many?
Oh,
Wait, what?
it talked about all the different places that were owned by McDonald's owns Boston Market,
Right.
and they also own Chipotle, and
Oh, goody.
P.F. Chang's owns Payway. I knew that, but anyways, interesting to see the different people that were.
Wait, McDonald's owns
That was
Chipotle?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I didn't read
Well, you
that
got
far.
to do something with all that meat that falls off of the edge of the hamburgers.
Ew.
I didn't.
I don't need Chipotle because of that.
I
reason.
saw Baja Fresh. I didn't see Chipotle on there. Oh, yeah. You're right.
I love Chipotle.
I can't do Chipotle. I've had too many bad pieces of chicken in my burritos. I can't do it anymore.
Oh, see, I only get bean and cheese burritos at every Mexican place I go to.
I had chicken burritos there, and you get that tough piece of chicken. I'm like, whoa,
Ooh.
disgusting. I hate it. I can't do it anymore.
It's because it's a reject McNugget.
That's what
I
I'm.
love McNuggets.
Disgusting.
Oh, they're so good. I don't even care if they're that slime. I love it so much.
If they're the slime.
Well, it's because
Yeah.
they're not even chicken.
Well, they're delicious, whatever it is. I allow myself to have them every once in a while.
Gerbil.
It's good. Oh, okay. I
It's-
should probably stop this.